the playoffs, like we've said, you just got to get in. I think Nashville was they have the 16th best record. They had the least amount of points of any team. Ottawa, they're, it's wide open. The parity in the league is so tight. The good teams win a lot more games by a goal over 82 games. But once you get into a 7-game series, the disparity between the teams is greatly reduced. So disappointing that we didn't make the playoffs. Certainly our goal next year is to be in the party.
Kenny, obviously a lot of pressure comes with being a general manager of the Red Wings, even during the years when you're 25 straight years in which you're making playoffs. This is a different territory for you, though, not getting there. As a general manager, do you try and avoid all the press and all of that chatter that goes on?
I don't listen to it. We were the last team in the league to miss the playoffs in a salary cap world. Since 2005, the other 29 teams have missed the playoffs once. We were the last team to miss the playoffs. So I think that's a pretty good thing. Certainly, we've been disappointed that we haven't had, I think back to 11 or 12 when we had 3-1 series lead against Chicago, 3-2 series lead 2 years ago against Tampa Bay. When you get opportunities, you don't get a lot of opportunities. And when you get opportunities, you got to take advantage of them because, again, other teams are going to get their opportunities. I don't worry about what's out there. I appreciate and respect the passion of our fans. They're so important to the success and to our organization. So, our people, we got our amateur scouts, we're all passionate. We're all disappointed that we had a disappointing year, and we got to figure out a way to be better. Part of that getting better is to be better internally. I mean, if you watch the league, it's not like there's blockbuster trades on an every regular basis. You got to get incrementally better. And I thought that I was at the World Championships in Cologne and Paris the past week. Dylan Larkin had an excellent tournament, played center, killed penalties, played on the power play. I think he was almost 60% in the face-off circle. I thought the last 25 games of the season this year, he did a lot of the things that we think he needs to do to take his game to be a good pro. Obviously, Jimmy Howard had a good season, played good in the World Championships. I think we've got some people here in Grand Rapids that are playing good and will either make our team next year at the start of camp or at some point in time. So we think there's good things going on, but you don't get dramatically better in short periods of time. Right. You got to work at it. We got all our amateur scouts in town for tonight's game. We've been meeting in Detroit since Monday. Tomorrow's our last day. We've got I think 11 picks in this year's draft, 4 third-round picks, 2 sixth, the 9th pick in the draft, and hopefully down the road, 3, 4, 5 years, 3, 4, 5 of these players are going to be of these picks will be Red Wings.
With all that said, Kenny, how long do you feel it's going to take to? And I think you've even come out and said yourself that you're going to be in a rebuilding stage now. Given what you have here, given what you have in Detroit with Larkin and Athanasiou, and Jimmy Howard's got some more years left, and if he continues to play, beyond this year the way he did last year, then you're
well. I guess, Bob, Ottawa missed the playoffs last year.
Right.
So,
oh my gosh! I mean, all 7 teams in Canada missed the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think there's only, I think in the Eastern Conference, there's only 3 teams that have been in the playoffs 2 years in a row. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, and Washington, maybe somebody else. I'm not sure what you're talking about exists.
Right.
I don't know that the Red Wings of old don't exist anymore. I don't know that anybody's going to make the playoffs 25 straight years in a row, or win 4 Stanley Cups in 11 years.
Not going to happen.
I don't think it exists. So I think that you gotta be in the game. You gotta try to get better every year. We're getting younger. Dylan Larkin's 22. Dylan Larkin's 20. Mantha's 22. Athanasiou's 22. Svechnik Bertuzzi's 21. Svechnikov is 20 years of age. These are the people that we're going to grow with. And we got lots of players on our team that are 24, 25, 20. I think we got 10 players that are under the 25 years of age or under in our team. So, some of them are going to grow. Some of them might not grow. It's a hard league, but I think that the goal is to get better, eventually hoist the Stanley Cup. I look at other teams out there that have had great regular seasons. They went around. it's a hard league. It's a hard league. So, our goal is to make the playoffs again next year. That's our goal going into the summer and as we go into September. But to think you're going to rattle off 4 or 5 Final Fours in a row and win the Cup in 97, 98, and 02 and 08. Nobody else has done it. Like even Chicago's won 3 Cups, and they might win it, but it's hard to do. So I think that you got to get better marginally every day, every month, every year, and I think that's the league.
Nobody, and I've had these conversations. I mean, I get incredibly frustrated to hear, and I, like you, respect the fans and the media for their opinions, but they've forgotten about 25 years, and they've also forgotten how the game has changed dramatically in terms of your job, coaches' jobs. So I guess my question again is, now you've got to rebuild. For the near future, we hope that, for success, what you have, the Bertuzzis, the Larkins, and then with the draft coming up and any other moves that you might be able to make, how long would it take, given the current status of the game,
to do what?
To get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs and become a contender for a Stanley Cup?
Well, we made the playoffs 25 years in a row. We've missed once. So I don't know. I don't have any answers for you. I'm not sure when you pose that question, I don't really know what the bar is. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just said to you, there's 16 teams in the East. 3 teams have made it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
The other 13 have either missed both years and made it one. We're one of the teams that made it last year. We missed this year. So I'm not sure what that's the league. That's the league. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the Eastern Conference, if I'm not mistaken, is it 4 or 5 teams? Detroit, Florida, Tampa Bay. There's 3. I think there's 1 or 2 others that made the playoffs a year ago that missed this year.
Well, 7 missed.
Philadelphia. So when that question's posed to me, I don't know if anybody's got the answer.
Right.
I don't think that answer exists. I think the league is too close to think that you're going to separate yourself you can separate yourself for a year or 2. The cap catches you.
Right.
And the cap caught us in 09. We went to the finals 2 years in a row, and we had to, we offered to host a deal. He went to Chicago, and Hudler went to the KHL, and Samuelson went to Vancouver. We lost a complete line. In 010, Chicago won the cup, and they let Ladd go, they let Bufflin go. You can't separate yourself for longer than 2 or 3 years. The cap catches you. So if we continue to do our business, draft good, develop good, we can stay competitive. But to think that you're going to be at the top of the class, those teams that are at the top of the class, some of them missed the playoffs for 10 straight years, or made the playoffs once out of 10 years, and they got a generational player. There's teams that haven't won the cup in this league in 50 years.
Right.
It's a tough league. That's why I said to you, we're the last team in the league to miss the playoffs when they implemented the salary cap in 05, 06. I don't know what the bar is. I don't know what the standards are. I just know, living it every day, that there's very little to choose between lots of teams. And the goal is get into the playoffs. And I look at Nashville, I look at Ottawa. Ottawa missed the playoffs last year. They're going to Game 7 of the third round. Last year they were out.
Yeah.
Nashville, I think, I was listening last night, I think that they are the 16th qualifying team in the playoffs, or one of the last lowest seeded teams, point teams. They're in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's the league. That's the league. You can go out and win the President's Trophy. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You can. It's a whole new world with a salary cap, and when you make the playoffs 10 years in a row like we did in the salary cap world, you never pick in the top 15.
Right.
And certainly that's part of we're getting a shot here this year with the 9th pick in the draft. We have the 7th pick in the second round. We have 4 thirds. We've got to make sure we're doing everything we can to make some picks, and they're going to push their way through Grand Rapids and hopefully come up and make a difference in Detroit. But I look at Dylan Larkin, who's 20 years old. I think he's a really good young player, but he's 20.
Right.
Where's he going to be when he's 24, 25 years of age and just coming into his prime? We're going to grow with Dylan Larkin. We're going to grow with some of these players.
7 teams, and you look at the salary cap era, Kenny, every year, one year to the next. There's a number of teams, like to your point, that are in the playoffs one year, not the next. 7 teams that made it a year ago are on the sidelines this
Out of
year.
16. That's
right,
almost half.
It's unbelievable.
That's the league.
And like you said too, your draft. I mean, you're going to have a top 10 pick for the first time since 1991. You're gonna have more draft picks than you've had since 2001. It's remarkable what the Red Wings have accomplished. And the other thing we talked about is you get Datsuk and you get Zetterberg in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. You guys were trendsetters in getting those guys. It's harder to do because all the other NHL teams saw what you're doing. Now you've got competition scouting those European leagues. So it is everything's different now.
At the end of the day, Bob, I'm disappointed we missed the playoffs.
Of course you are.
I'm disappointed that we missed by maybe it's 20 points. If you're going to miss, you want to miss the last weekend of the regular season where every game means something up until the end. We want to make the playoffs, and certainly what's going on here in Grand Rapids, what happened at the World Championships with the Kaiser played good there, Larkin played good there, Jimmy Howard played good there. We've got some young players playing good here. We know that we got to get better, and we want to get back into the mix next year, and we want to qualify for the playoffs. But certainly, at the same time, the other part of the message is it's a hard league.
Yeah.
29 teams out there are saying the same thing that I'm saying to you. They want to get into the playoffs, and there's a salary cap. So that's the beauty of the National Hockey League. It's hard to separate yourself from the opposition.
Widely considered a brilliant general manager, and we see it firsthand. I've seen it for many, many years. And the passion in you, if you want to see the passion in Ken Holland, look at his face during this interview. He hated missing the playoffs. He'll be back on top, no
Thanks,
doubt
Bob.
about it. Thank you, Kenny. Ken Holland chatting with us here during intermission number 1. Stand by. We'll come back. Second period play-by-play coming up. 2-1 Barracuda.